In 1959, a tiny Japanese company with a crazy dream arrived on American shores with just $250,000 and a fleet of miniature motorcycles that looked like toys compared to Harley-Davidson. The motorcycle industry laughed. 10 years later, this same company had destroyed its competition, revolutionized an entire industry, and sold more motorcycles than every other manufacturer combined. This isn't just a story about motorcycles. This is a story of how Honda changed transportation forever and rewrote the rules of global business along the way. To understand Honda's remarkable rise, we need to go back to post-war Japan. The country lay in ruins, with its industrial capacity decimated and its economy on life support. In 1948, a passionate engineer named Soichiro Honda had a simple idea: attach small surplus military engines to bicycles to help Japanese citizens get around their rebuilding nation. His first creation, the Honda Type A, was literally just that: a regular bicycle with a tiny 50 cubic centimeters engine strapped to it. Honda's early days were far from glamorous. Working out a small wooden shack, Soichiro and his business partner Takeo Fujisawa began producing these motorized bicycles with whatever materials they could find. But Soichiro Honda wasn't just any engineer. His obsession with quality and innovation drove him to constantly improve his designs. By 1949, Honda had created their first complete motorcycle, the Dream D-Type, and established Honda Motor Company. Throughout the 1950s, Honda gradually built their reputation in Japan, but remained virtually unknown internationally. While brands like Harley-Davidson, Triumph, and BSA dominated global markets, Honda was perfecting something that would soon change everything: small, reliable engines that anyone could afford and maintain. The conventional wisdom in the motorcycle industry was clear: bigger was better. Power and size defined success. Honda, however, was about to prove that conventional wisdom completely wrong. But Honda's global conquest didn't begin with a flashy, powerful machine designed to impress motorcycle enthusiasts. Instead, it started with something most serious bikers considered a joke: a small, step-through bike that even your grandmother could ride. What was it about this humble little machine that allowed a Japanese company to completely dominate the world's largest motorcycle market in just a few years? And how did Honda's approach fundamentally change not just motorcycling, but American culture itself? The answer involves Madison Avenue, a revolutionary marketing slogan, and a business strategy so counterintuitive that Harvard Business School still teaches it today. In 1959, Honda made its move to America, establishing American Honda Motor Company in a small Los Angeles office with just 8 employees. Their timing couldn't have been worse. The American motorcycle market was dominated by heavyweight machines from Harley-Davidson and British manufacturers like Triumph and BSA. These were the bikes of rebels and outlaws, epitomized by Marlon Brando in The Wild One. Meanwhile, Honda arrived with their small displacement motorcycles like the 50 cubic centimeters Super Cub, a bike that looked more like a scooter than a real motorcycle by American standards. Industry experts predicted immediate failure. Initial sales were disastrous. American dealers, accustomed to selling powerful cruisers, had little interest in Honda's tiny bikes. But Honda had an unexpected advantage. Their motorcycles were incredibly reliable compared to the temperamental British and American machines of the era. While Triumph and Harley owners often joked that oil leaks were a feature, not a bug, Honda bikes simply worked, day after day, without constant maintenance. The breakthrough came when Honda executives noticed something surprising. Their best customers weren't traditional motorcycle enthusiasts at all, but ordinary Americans who had never considered owning a motorcycle before. The motorcycle that would change everything wasn't designed for speed demons or rebels. The Honda Super Cub, with its step-through design, automatic clutch, and enclosed chain, was the antithesis of everything Americans associated with motorcycles. Introduced in 1958, the Super Cub was Soichiro Honda's masterpiece of practical engineering. It featured a 3-speed semi-automatic transmission that eliminated the need for clutch operation, a leg shield to keep riders clean, a stamped steel monocoque body that was lightweight yet durable, an air-cooled 4-stroke engine that sipped fuel and rarely needed maintenance. But the Super Cub's most revolutionary feature was its accessibility. Almost anyone could ride it within minutes, with minimal instruction. It was motorcycle riding without the intimidation factor. Honda realized they needed to completely reframe what motorcycling meant to Americans. Working with the advertising agency Gray Advertising, they launched one of the most successful campaigns in marketing history in 1963. "You Meet the Nicest People on a Honda" directly challenged the outlaw image of motorcycling. Instead of leather-clad rebels, Honda's ads showed housewives, businessmen, and college students riding Super Cubs. The strategy worked brilliantly. By appealing to mainstream America rather than competing for existing motorcycle enthusiasts, Honda created an entirely new market segment. Sales exploded from just 1,000 units in 1960 to over 100,000 by 1963. By 1964, Honda was selling almost 50% of all motorcycles in America. Thanks for making this far in the video. If you like the content, consider subscribing. It's free to do and really helps the channel. While the Super Cub was transforming Honda's commercial fortunes, Soichiro Honda was pursuing another passion, racing. He famously declared, "If Honda doesn't race, there is no Honda." This wasn't just about pride. Honda understood that racing drove engineering excellence, which translated to better consumer products. In 1959, Honda shocked the racing world by announcing they would compete in the prestigious Isle of Man TT, the world's most demanding motorcycle race. Initially, European competitors laughed at Honda's tiny machines and the Japanese riders who barely spoke English. No one was laughing by 1961, when Honda swept the 125 cubic centimeters and 250 cubic centimeters classes, taking the first 5 places. By the mid-1960s, Honda was dominating Grand Prix racing. Their technical innovations included the first motorcycle engines capable of revving to 20,000 RPM, revolutionary multi-cylinder designs in small displacement categories, advanced metallurgy that allowed engines to be smaller yet more powerful. This racing success filtered down to their consumer models. By the mid-1960s, Honda was producing sports motorcycles that combined Japanese reliability with thrilling performance. Now, I'm curious to hear from you. If you could own any classic Honda from the 1960s, which model would you choose? Would you go for the practical Super Cub, or would you prefer one of their high-performance models like the legendary CB750? Drop a comment below with your choice and why. And if you or someone in your family owned a Honda during this era, I'd love to hear about your experiences. Those personal stories help us understand just how revolutionary these machines really were. As the decade progressed, Honda aggressively expanded their product lineup to capture every segment of the market. By the mid-1960s, they offered everything from 50 cubic centimeters commuters to 450 cubic centimeters performance machines. Key models that cemented Honda's dominance included the CB160, 1965, a sporty twin-cylinder that offered impressive performance for young riders; the CL72 Scrambler, 1962, one of the first Japanese do-everything bikes that could handle both streets and dirt; the CB450 Black Bomber, 1965, a sophisticated DOHC vertical twin that directly challenged larger British bikes. By 1966, Honda was producing over 60% of all motorcycles sold in America. Their production quality was so superior that competitors simply couldn't keep up. While British and American manufacturers struggled with outdated manufacturing techniques and quality control issues, Honda's modern factories produced motorcycles with unprecedented reliability. Honda's approach to the dealer network was equally revolutionary. Instead of working exclusively with existing motorcycle dealerships, Honda recruited car dealers, sporting goods stores, and even department stores to sell their machines. This expanded distribution network made Honda motorcycles accessible to mainstream consumers who would never have entered a traditional motorcycle shop. By the end of the 1960s, Honda had fundamentally transformed the motorcycle industry. The company that arrived with $250,000 and a dream in 1959 had grown into a global powerhouse with annual sales of over 500,000 motorcycles in America alone. More importantly, Honda had changed the perception of who could ride a motorcycle. No longer exclusively the domain of rebels and enthusiasts, motorcycling became accessible to everyday people. The impact of Honda's 1960s revolution continues today. The Super Cub remains in production, with over 100 million units sold worldwide, making it the most successful motor vehicle in history, and Japanese engineering excellence became the industry standard. The democratization of motorcycling created millions of new riders worldwide. Honda's remarkable journey from post-war startup to global domination represents one of the greatest business success stories of all time. By challenging conventional wisdom, prioritizing engineering excellence, and understanding the untapped potential of non-traditional customers, Honda didn't just enter the American market, they reinvented it. As Soichiro Honda himself once said, success is 99% failure. The company's willingness to fail, learn, and adapt ultimately changed how the world moves, one Super Cub at a time. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far, thank you. Consider liking and subscribing for more vintage motorcycle content.